All right, thanks for tuning in to another week of football talk on the OFN Today for this Tuesday, the 11th of December, 2018. As the NFL's final 3 weeks begin on Thursday with a huge AFC West battle in KC, Chargers trying to stop the Chiefs from winning a 10th straight in the series. This is also the first week of bowl season in college football, and that's where we begin today's show. All right, this edition of the OFN Today is brought to you by ourlads.com, rotoexperts.com, and covers.com. Covers.com features live scores, stats, and odds, and is considered the most convenient and entertaining source for sports news and facts, with over 45 million visits a year. This is definitely the premier time of the football season to check out Covers. Not, of course, for the NFL season alone, but the bowl season, again, as I mentioned, kicks off on Saturdays, so there's a tremendous amount of bowl activity that you want to be able to check out, all the stats and everything that you want to know about the bowls. Not only it covers at their website, but their handicappers, who, of course, who have been on this show all season and will continue to be on the rest of the season. They all do a great job, and that includes my co-host for this show, Dave Cokin. Dave, how was your week?
It was very good. I'm pleased with the results. It's a lot of fun at this time with the bowl games getting cranked up, big games in the NFL, and college basketball in the NHL in full swing. So I've got lots to do.
What is your favorite non-football sport? The handicap. Hockey. Okay.
NHL and then baseball. Baseball is really mechanical, but I happen to love baseball just as a fan. And
are you going to the winter meetings? Being in Vegas, are you going to stroll over to the casinos this week?
No, I don't care about that. And it's an industry thing, and I'm not really in the industry. I don't think there's going to be any real big signings this week. I don't expect the Machado or Harper signings to take place for another week or two. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, maybe that Yankee-Met-Tampa deal will, I think we've heard so many potential links to, as far as the Mets and the Yankees, that you think that something is probably going to get done. I actually believe this deal that we're hearing. I think it's making sense to me with Real Muto going to the Mets, and what's his name? Who's that big picture again the Mets have? Syndergaard, yeah. So Syndergaard going to the Yankees. I think that deal is going to happen. I think you're going to see that three-way deal happen. Maybe even today, in the next couple of days.
I think it's possible because the Yankees do want a starting pitcher badly, and I don't know if they want to give a boatload of money to Jay Happ, who's really good, but he's up there in years, and Kluber's going to cost them a lot. So I think this could happen. Yeah,
I don't trust Kluber anymore, by the way. I think his best days are behind him. So
he's going to be 33 in April.
Yeah. So, and he hasn't pitched a good big game in the last couple of years. So why would you want to spend money on a guy like that? Forget it, or give away, what you have to give away to the Indians to get him. So we'll see. It's a lot of fun following the winter meetings. We'll see what kind of deals do take place. But as far as football is concerned, again, we're going to get into the bowl picture a little bit later on. Tomorrow, Mark Lawrence, of course, between the three of you, Teddy, you, and Mark, Mark's the one that has everything out available before the bowl season. So Mark's into the trends and the stat and the history,
yep.
and so I get it. So you guys are more of let's wait and see before each game, before each week. So that's why we'll do it on a week-to-week basis with you and Teddy. But I'm going to preview the entire bowl season with Mark coming up on tomorrow's show. So that should be a lot of fun. But again, before we get into those bowl games. Let's start. I want to ask you a couple of things, and I know we went over some handicapping tips for bowls last week, but a few others as I was going through these games that I was actually thinking about that we didn't talk about, and that is coaches' records in bowl games? I know we talked about coaches possibly not being around, and we're going to get into that too because that's coming into play for sure this weekend. But first, how much value do you put into whether it's Billy Napier's first bowl or any other coach that has either a good or a bad record in a bowl game?
Very little. I'm just a matchup guy, and it worked for me. I mean, I'm not saying there's nobody out there that's been better, but you look at my numbers in college football over the past few years. I mean, they're pretty good. So
okay.
The Bulls last year, I mean, I'm not making it up. I hit 67% of the Bulls last year. So I'll stick to what works for me, which is matchups now and information. I do put value into information that I might be able to pick up reading the daily beat report. They're not always daily, but at least the beat reports from the local sports writers who cover these teams, because you can get some feel for preparation, and that can be a big deal, a big intangible for these bowl games.
All right, well, let's get started with that first game. We're going to go in order of times, and that is the Cure Bowl in Orlando. Interesting that Louisiana has played in, I believe, 5 bowl games in their history, but they were all at the Superdome. So this is the first bowl game that they leave the state. They go to Orlando, and it's too bad, I guess, this isn't in the Superdome because these two teams are regional teams. Louisiana and Tulane. Tulane's a 3.5-point favorite. Now, I look at this and tell me if you also – I'm assuming you also don't get into this. This is something I'll get into the coaching situation and the history with Mark, and that also includes the history of the fact that Tulane hasn't had a bowl win since 2002. They've only been in a bowl. So I look at that myself, and I definitely put credence into that because I think it's an emotional thing that the players and the coaches understand and what a great thing it would be. And we know – how important it is to try and decide in these bowl games which teams are motivated, which teams don't care, even though teams like Louisiana and Tulane are going to play good anyway because why wouldn't they care if they're in a bowl game? But I don't know. I would give the edge there, a little bit of an edge for Tulane, knowing that these players understand that their program hasn't won a bowl game since 2002. I am concerned a little bit with the fact that Tulane, though, hasn't covered 4 straight games. They are favored by 3.5.
And they've been terrible as a favorite.
Yep.
The interesting thing on Tulane...
Yeah, excuse me. And that was the thing I was wrong at. It wasn't they haven't covered 4 straight games. They're 0-4 against the spread this year as a favorite.
Right. Tulane has already accomplished their goal, which was to get to a bowl game. That was the stated goal. It wasn't to win a bowl game. The stated goal was to get to a bowl game this year. And they got there in incredible fashion, getting a touchdown and then going for 2 and making it against Navy. But it kind of tells you something right there. I mean, they needed a touchdown in a late 2 to beat Navy. And Navy stinks this year. Okay, Navy's a bad football team this year. This also could be a little brother, big brother type of game in a way because Louisiana Lafayette's in the Sun Belt and Tulane's in a bigger conference. And I'm not so sure that – I think the motivational edge might be on the ULL side here. The problem is fundamentally they can't stop the run, and that's what Tulane wants to do. So it makes it a really tough spot for me because I don't want to lay points with Tulane. My numbers don't indicate anything because I've got Tulane about 3 points better.
Okay.
And the matchup would seem to favor Tulane a bit. So I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place in that one. And I'll probably end up sitting, and I'm not probably,
okay.
I'm going to end up sitting this game out.
Okay. Well, a couple of things to keep in mind, too, that Tulane fired their offensive coordinator after the season ended. So after they got that win to go to a bowl, Fritz fired Doug Ruse. So he hired Will Hall. But he ain't going to be coming in. He's the Memphis assistant. He won't be coming in to run the offense till next season. So assistant head coach Alex Atkins is going to call the plays in the game. And one of the reasons, or the main reason, that he fired Ruse, apparently, is that Willie Fritz wants to concentrate more on running the football. Or at least that's what we've heard. And I remember we were talking last week about the Army-Navy game, And one of the things that's very interesting about Army-Navy, which, again, it came out last week, and it was another under total, is that you get two teams that want to run the football as much as those two teams, and the totals are usually going to go under. And I got to believe you might get the same thing here, too, with both these teams wanting to run the football.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
What is the total?
Let's see. I'll have to.
Because I'm not a total person myself, but something like this.
I avoid totals like the plague.
You do too? Yeah, I don't like totals. I'm not a total guy.
It's 59.
59? Wow, that's pretty big for two teams that want to run the football. Okay.
Neither one of them plays much defense either.
That's true. All right. Let's go to the next game. That is the New Mexico Bowl, and Utah State is an 8-point favorite against North Texas. And North Texas gets off to this great start. They beat Arkansas after a big year last year. Seth Luttrell is a hot commodity at head coach. And then the only thing that I could see, the only correlation after that, if that huge 4-0 start, from where all of a sudden they just were very inconsistent the rest of the season, was the fact that they lost their running back in the fifth game of the season. Their leading rusher at that point in time, the kid by the name of Lauren Easley. Other than that, I can't figure out why this team all of a sudden just became a very inconsistent team after a great start. They haven't covered 5 straight games. Matter of fact, they're 1-7 ATS in the last 8. But they are a big dog here against a team that won't have their coach, Matt Wells, on the sideline for the game, and that could have something that could mean something in this game.
Yeah, I don't know how interested Utah State is in this one. They were gearing up to face somebody bigger, and instead they get, whoop-de-doo, North Texas. You got the coaching situation. I don't think there's been a lot. Let's just say, if I'm a Utah State fan, I'm not thrilled with Gary Anderson coming back to be the head coach. I think North Texas might be the side of this football game. It's not on my card yet.
Yeah,
but I'm definitely looking at that side.
I agree. I do. I am too.
I think the line's too high.
Yeah.
And North Texas is probably going to be pretty excited about this.
Yeah.
So you might have a live dog in this one.
Yeah.
It's one of those games that this could be a close football game, and to me, getting more than a touchdown, I'd be looking at the Mean Green side.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of leaning that way myself, especially it's a big number. We see now. Do you again? This is something maybe more Mark to talk about, but the history. Have you noticed, or is this something that you've noticed at all about the history of dogs in bowl games?
Well, the early games, the minor bowl games, the dogs are stronger.
They are in the minor games. Okay.
Yeah, because there's a little more motivation on their side. Once you get to the real big games, I don't think it matters because the teams are all motivated, and then it's just a matter of who's better. But I think you see a lot of dogs will steal wins in these games, and part of it is what we just talked about. I don't know how interested the favorite is in this particular game.
Yeah, in this game, correct.
Yeah. I mean, there's just not a lot here.
No. They should be up. They're probably not happy that the great season that they had ended in not winning a Mountain West Conference or even playing in a Mountain West Conference championship and then seeing their head coach leave.
Well, and no offense to Albuquerque, but, there's a lot of really great vacation spots for these teams to visit in bowl games.
Yeah.
And Albuquerque, I'm pretty sure, is not high on the list.
No. They could have been in Vegas. Vegas would have been better. Or, of course, they could have been in some other sunny location. But, yeah.
Hawaii,
sure.
Bahamas,
yep,
wherever. I mean, it's out. And then, again, I don't want to offend anybody who's from Albuquerque, but who's going to get excited about Albuquerque?
I know. North Texas, meanwhile, it was another thing to keep in mind. Seth Luttrell, as I mentioned, is a hot commodity. If he doesn't get a head coaching job this year, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. The jobs, I believe, are almost all done. So if there's nothing that opens up for Seth this year, you would think next year would definitely be a year that he'll be somewhere else other than North Texas. He is so far. He's only been there 2 years. They've been to 2 bowls. They have lost them both. So Seth's working real hard to try to get a bowl win here for this team.
They're going to want to win this.
Yes.
They want to win this.
All right, let's get to the Las Vegas Bowl. And this is another Mountain West Conference team. This is the champ, Fresno State. So they go to Las Vegas. They get the big win over Boise. That was a gut check win. It looked like the way that game was going, it was going to be Boise was going to find another way to win that game late. But Fresno, give them all the credit in the world for hanging in there and winning in overtime. Great win. They got to feel great about themselves. They accomplished a lot. Now, I think if this was a different matchup, I might be a little bit weary about this. But considering now they're going up against a Pac-12 team, a team that, those are the big brothers we're playing, Arizona State, without N'Keal Harry, their best player, who decides, I'm not playing, I'm going to the NFL draft. This is Herm Edwards' first foray into the bowl situation. This is a Fresno team, by the way, that's a 4-point favorite against Arizona State. Now, do you look at that as a slap in the face to the Sun Devils?
No, slap in the face. Fresno's better than Arizona State. They are.
Especially without Harry.
I made this line 8. So.
Wow. Was that
Fresno's
before or after Harry?
No, I didn't really dock Arizona State much for Harry. Maybe it's a half point. Position player outside of a quarterback in college is rarely going to be worth more than that. Harry's a nice player, no question about that. He'll be playing on Sundays next year. Fresno's a legit top 20 team.
Agreed.
They're about 3 plays. They're about 3 plays away from being 13-0.
Sure. And Jeff Tedford knows how to coach against Pac-12 teams.
Arizona State hasn't played well away from home. They're questionable defensively. Fresno's just better than they are. And I think the site favors Fresno as well. They're familiar with Las Vegas, less of a distraction factor for them than it might be for Arizona State. And Herm is, and this is where I do look at coaching, because he's never been through this before, and I don't know that he's as equipped to handle the break time between the regular season and the bowl, as opposed to an experienced coach like Tedford.
Correct.
So I think all the edges are with Fresno. I think the intangibles with Fresno. Fully expect them to win this game.
Yeah, I agree. I've been high on Fresno all year, and if look, real soon, especially of course here with our lads, draft first sight. We're going to really be paying attention a lot to these players that'll be coming out. Matter of fact, Dan Shanka will be we're going to have our first 2019 draft show on Friday, and I mentioned that because I'm a big Keyshawn Johnson fan. I know he's not going to be one of those top receivers picked. I get it, but I think he's going to have a long NFL career. The kid's got good size. He's very physical. He's got good hands. As long as he runs a good 40, a reasonable 40 at the combine, I think he's going to have a very successful NFL career. And I just love also the toughness of this Fresno State team. They got to start that running back, Benjamin from Arizona State. They can do that, and they got a good defense. So if they can do that, make Wilkins one-dimensional without Harry, they're in good shape. All right, let's get to the Camellia Bowl in Alabama. So this is Georgia Southern and Eastern Michigan. And Georgia Southern's a 1-point favorite against Eastern Michigan. Yeah, I'm thankful for that because I'm a huge Chris Creighton fan. How can you not be with the job that he's done at Eastern Michigan? Talk about bowl history motivation. Eastern Michigan hasn't won a bowl since 1987. So you think they want to win this game? Georgia Southern, I haven't really been very impressed with Georgia Southern this year anyway. Yeah, they're a better team this year than they were last year. I get that. But I don't think that says much in the Sun Belt. Eastern Michigan, they've gone to places outside even the MAC, and they've played really good football. They almost beat San Diego State on the road. I really like this Eastern Michigan team in a spot like this, and I'll take the Eagles in a relatively pick'em game.
Yeah, I didn't come up with much here. I don't like the matchup for Eastern Michigan that much. I don't going against option teams can be a real pain in the neck in these bowl games. I made Eastern Michigan 1.5, so a little value on that side, but you're going through a pick'em, so it's really scant. it's not a game I'm going to play. I think the regional favorite here is Georgia Southern. They might have more fans at the game. To me, it's a real tough game. If I had to bet it, I would take Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, let's also keep in mind this is Eastern Michigan team that not only lost in overtime at San Diego State, but they beat Purdue at Purdue. So they have proved that they can go up against some really good competition and stand up to them. We haven't seen that at all from Georgia Southern. All right, let's. The final game is going to be the night game. That is the New Orleans Bowl in the Superdome. You're going to get Appalachian State as a 7-point favorite against Middle Tennessee, and Appalachian State no more Scott Satterfield. So
yeah, that's big.
Yep. So that should be something that, especially too, because from what I hear, he's already also taken his. Hasn't he also taken his assistants with him? So I don't know about that. But fact is that even though Middle Tennessee lost at home to win the Conference USA, Stockstill is still a very good quarterback at this level. They're getting 7. If this is an even game, that'd be different. But hey, this is a live dog.
Yeah, this is one where it's similar to North Texas, Utah State, because there's no question that Appalachian State is better than Middle Tennessee. They're considerably better. But it's not a good spot for them. And Middle Tennessee, I'm actually, this is a game I'm still looking at because what I'm worried about is that Middle Tennessee put everything into that Conference USA title game.
True.
They were absolutely demoralized after that game. The press conference with the coach and his son afterwards it was incredibly emotional. And I don't know, I'm leery of whether they're going to be able to get back up for this game. That was the game they wanted. They wanted that conference championship in the worst way. I don't know if an exhibition game, and that's what this is. It's an exhibition game. I don't know if they're going to get geared up enough for that. So, and they don't match up all that well with Appalachian, which has a really good running game, and you can run on Middle Tennessee. I'm real leery of this one. I lean to the Blue Raiders.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to take the favorite, but I don't know if I'm going to take the dog.
Yeah, this is one of those games where I think it's probably only worth if you're going to throw a few bucks on it, might as well just go for it and take the money line and say, hey, you know what, I'll put a little bit of money on it. If they can win the game outright, then that's okay. I'll throw this in there, and maybe this will motivate it. This will be the motivating factor. It's the final game for Stockstill and Stockstill. So
I know that.
Well, that's got to be something. So the quarterback is not going into this. The quarterback ain't going into this game going, I don't care about the game.
No, I understand what you're saying, but the real final game for them was the Conference USA title game. I mean, they were on fire for that football game, and it was a gigantic letdown for them to lose that, especially the way they lost it. I mean, they've still got a chance to win the game. They're going to get the ball back late, and they got 12 men on the field for the punt. And that's the end of the game. It was an automatic first down.
That was pretty bad.
It's a terrible way to lose the football game.
Yeah. Yeah. So, look, I expect that doesn't mean even if Stockstill throws for 4 touchdown passes, they could still lose the football game. But we'll see. Again, not because you got Satterfield gone, kind of even things up in my mind. All right.
Could be.
So let's now talk about. We got a couple more minutes to go, and we'll talk, of course, more about the bowl games next week. A few more weeks to go as far as that's concerned. But I wanted to get into the NFL for a few things. And last week we talked about teasers, and so I asked you to come up with a teaser of the week for the next few weeks. And again, so explain the type of teaser that you're going to do. These are going to be those, 6-point teasers?
Yeah, 2 teams, 6 points. And I'll go with the mathematical plus, which is finding teams 7.5, 8.5 as favorites, or taking dogs that are going through 3 and 7. So you'd have 1.5, 2, and 2.5. So
the goal is you want to get those the favorites almost as even as possible, under 3 definitely, and you want to get the underdogs over 7.
Well, through 3 and through 7, both ways. So the teams you'd be looking at would be the Ravens,
Okay.
the Titans, and the Falcons. And I decided that I'll leave the Titans out of it because I think they stink. And I will take the 2 favorites, Ravens and Falcons, tease them down to -2 and -2.5. I believe that's what you'd be doing on 6 right now. And that's it for me.
Wow. Okay, I'm surprised that you're going to – you know what you're doing, though. But that you're going to go ahead and even do anything with Atlanta, the way they're playing.
Well, they're playing Arizona.
I know. I get it.
They're playing a AAA.
So, well, let me ask you, what about Houston?
Where's Houston? I can't find.
They're 6 points against the Jets. What about them? I guess as even, basically.
Yeah, that I would not do, because you're not going through. You're not going through 7. They're 6.5. I'm sticking with where I've got a mathematical edge, and those are games that go through 3 and 7.
Okay, and that's all you do, no matter what. That's not what you're not concerned with anything else.
I mean, that's I'm looking for situations where I'm plus even, and that's plus even.
All right, let's see.
I don't want the Jets.
No, I get that. No. I mean, I probably would look, let's see. I would go, if I was not looking at your formula, but just taking a look at 6, I would definitely take the Bears because they're going to get, I know the Packers have dominated this series, but come on. I mean, the Bears, they're going to come out firing against the Packers in this one.
Well, they are, but I got to tell you this, and this is an old angle I've used in sports for years, and it's not bad. When a team fires the coach and the new coach takes over, even if it's an interim coach, if they win that first game, I'm not going against them. And the Packers, that team, they had a completely new lease on life last Sunday with McCarthy out of there. They had fun. You could see the excitement, and boy, would they love to stay in the playoff race with a win here. I don't know. Excuse me, I don't know that they can get it because the Bears are going to be geared up for this as well. I don't think the Bears are going to have a letdown coming out of the Rams game. But I would not be excited about laying points to the Packers right now. They've got nothing to lose, and they're still alive. They think they're still alive for the playoffs, and technically they are. Obviously, they have to win this game. I'm not going to run to the window to bet against them here.
All right, well, what about Minnesota? I mean, Minnesota is a 7-point favorite against Miami, and I look at this game as one of those games, especially now that they've fired their offensive coordinator, which is funny because I did the Jet show yesterday, and we were going over coaching candidates that would probably be the ones that would be the hot guys that the Jets would be talking about. And look, I said this yesterday on the Jet show. I said I want nothing to do with John DeFilippo. Because from what I've seen so far this season, he hasn't done anything. I mean, he avoids the run like the plague. Kirk Cousins is I haven't seen anything. Every week we keep talking about Kirk Cousins can't beat teams over 500, and that's what he's got.
21.
Yeah, now he's got to try to do that this week. But I look at the history and I go, hey, that's one thing. And I know he hasn't won this year, but. I mean, Miami, after the win last week, I don't know. I get the feeling Minnesota is going to come out firing this week.
Yeah, they might. And they should beat the Dolphins. But you've got a Coach of the Year candidate, to me, in Miami. That team they're mediocre as can be on paper. And if they win this game, if they get the upset in this game, they're going to make the playoffs. So there's a lot to play for Miami here. And I think they're going to come out flying. Vikings better find a way to rejuvenate or revitalize, I should say, their offense. They were absolutely horrible at Seattle last night. Terrible. They're lucky they didn't lose by 30.
Yeah. Keep in mind the Dolphins haven't won a road game this year. They've only covered one. By the way, I said this last week after I did the show with Mark because I've had two guys that have been. I had my co-host for the NFL show I did last year, and then I had Mark. Both guys coincidentally living in South Florida, and both guys have been. I mean, last year I had my guy talk about how he thought if the Dolphins didn't, there was a possible chance that Gaze would get fired. Then this season, Mark, in a couple of different situations, telling me that Gaze is awful and Gaze should get fired and all this. And I was like, okay, Mark, I mean, I don't understand. You explain to me. You got to tell me how because if you look at the roster and you look at the fact that they've won 6 games at that time, something's got to give. I mean, are they? Because you're trying to tell me that the team should be better. They should win 10 games. If not, then I guess they're lucky, and that's where Mark went with. And I told Mark, I said, Mark, I think it's the case is you just live in South Florida. I think you've been hearing stuff that everybody else isn't hearing, and and look, Mark, I'll make fun of Mark tomorrow on the air. Because I think it's funny because I'm like you, Dave. I have really stuck up for Adam Gaze. I think Gaze has done a good job. I don't think he has a lot to work with there. And again, maybe there's something they're seeing or hearing on a daily basis that we're not, that's making them believe that it's all Adam Gaze's fault. Maybe that's just because that's the way the fans and the media react. But from what I see, I think he's done a great job.
Yeah, so do I. And I don't pay much attention to what fans who are in the local area think. I mean, there were Boston fans this year. Every time Alex Cora did something that didn't work, it's like, he's terrible. Okay, yeah, right.
Who's that?
Cora with the Red Sox.
Oh, yeah, before.
I'm serious. During the regular season.
Sure, yeah.
Every time a move didn't work, it's like, he's terrible. He's awful. Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Local fans have a tendency to be very harsh on their local coaches.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you expect from the Dolphins. Like you said, I mean, from that defensively, I'm surprised he hasn't fired his defensive coach long ago. That's something that has to change because their defense hasn't been very good. But that's not his department. I mean, his department's offense, and to get what he's been able to get out of them with nothing left at skill position, and with he's got a banged up offensive line, and he's had Brock Osweiler for like a month. So I don't know how he's kept this team at 7-6. But
we'll see if they can get to 8-6. I'm not going to bet on it, but I'm kind of rooting for them.
All right, and then one more I want to go over with you is that Tennessee Giant game before I let you go. And the Giants are red hot all of a sudden. They are 4-1 last 5, 4-0-1 against the spread in those games. They even won last week big without Beckham. But look, they're a 2.5-point favorite against a Tennessee team right now with 7 wins. But I guess I can understand it because Tennessee, when you look at the play from week to week, especially when you get them on the road, they just can look like one of the worst teams in football.
I would play the Giants or nobody here because you just uttered the key phrase. They look like one of the worst teams in football because they kind of are. They're really not very good. They're just not very good.
Well, Mariota has been a big disappointment.
He's just a guy, and
yep.
I don't know if they're going to have a decision to make after next season or after this season as to whether they want to make him the long-term guy or not. I think he's strictly an average guy, and the Giants are flying right now. And Barkley, guy's unstoppable. So I think the Giants win.
I hear you. I look, if this was in Tennessee, this would be different. I would think about it, but being that Tennessee's got to do something on the road, no. I
made the Giants -5 here. So.
Okay. All right, Dave. So how's everything going on with the website? Smoking
Everything
Cokin?
Is great. We're just absolutely destroying the NHL right now, and hopefully that'll continue.
Dave, appreciate it. Enjoy the bowl games this week, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good, Greg.
Thank you. That's Dave Cokin at covers.com. And not only can you check out Dave's website, smokingcokin.com. Yes, I was just no, actually, it's actually, it is smokingcokin.com. I had to think about it because I know that his email is cokin@cox.net. All right, so there you go. If you have any personal service inquiries, again, Cokin, COKIN, @cox.net. SmokingCokin.com is the website, or you can follow him on Twitter at Dave Cokin. So Mark Lawrence will be with us tomorrow. Teddy Savransky, a.k.a. Teddy Covers, will be with me on Thursday. So that will wrap up the week here on the OFN Today. By the way, on Friday, we are going to have, we've got 2 shows on Friday. We don't normally have Friday shows anymore, but now we do. And that's because we're going to have our final Mountain West Conference show of the year with Robert Gagliardi. So we're going to go over the bowl season on Friday with Robert on the Mountain West Conference Football Report at noon. And then, as I mentioned just a short while ago, Dan Shanka is going to make his debut for the 2019 NFL Draft here on the OFN Today, actually on the Our Lads Football Radio Network, because that's going to be Our Lads Guide to the 2019 NFL Draft. So that is going to be on Friday. We don't have a time yet, but anyway, that's going to be obviously before the bowl season begins. Dan and I are going to go over a lot of players that you need to keep an eye on for the NFL Draft during these bowl games. So, of course, we've already got a list of players that have decided to skip the bowl games. We'll talk about a lot of those key players. But more importantly, we're going to go into the players that are going to be participating in the bowl games so you can zero in on them and see how they're going to look, especially if you're big on the draft and so forth. This will give you a little bit of a head start. You can keep a little notepad by you or record the games and save them. So when the time is right, when the draft comes around, you can check these games out and the players out as well. But that'll be on our show on Friday. And again, Mark Lawrence will help me to preview the bowl season tomorrow. And Teddy will talk NFL on Thursday. So Dave did a little bit of both here, talking about the NFL and college football. Let's talk some fantasy football now with RotoExperts.com. Scott Engel. And Scott, your Seattle Seahawks got another big win last night. So much dominating that it forced Minnesota to fire their coordinator.
Yeah, it looks like they weren't actually ready for the kind of scheme that the Seahawks ran out there, with 7 defensive backs and double covering Thielen and Diggs. And, not just wasn't that, the defensive line got a terrific push last night, dominated an inferior offensive line.
Yep. So, as I told Jan Levine, my co-host for the Jet Show, thank goodness it happened now, because we were going over coaching candidates for the Jets. DeFilippo obviously was on the list as of yesterday, and I wanted nothing to do with DeFilippo on the Jets. So I'm glad that's gone. So we can look at some other. But who I want with the Jets is David Shaw from Stanford. I want to see if we can lure him away from Stanford. I think he's coming to the NFL soon. So this would be a good opportunity to take a guy like David Shaw and move him from Stanford into the NFL. But as far as now that it's playoff time and the championships are next week, so how many semifinals are you in, Scott?
6. I had 4 first-round buys, and 10 leagues made the playoffs in 7, got eliminated in 1. I'm still alive in 6 of my 10 leagues.
All right. Do you have any tough decisions to make this week as far as who you're thinking about starting or not?
To be honest with you, on a Tuesday, I haven't looked at my lineup yet.
Okay.
Probably focusing on waivers tonight, then I'll start thinking about lineups like late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. But at this point, if you've gotten this far, you pretty much know who your starting lineup is.
Yeah, because when you look at the waiver wire, I mean, there might be a few players. I mean, whether he's been picked up or not, Dante Pettis sure has played well lately.
Yeah, he's only owned in less than 20% of ESPN leagues, and he's got 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games. He plays the Seahawks again this week. 2 weeks ago, 129 yards and 2 touchdowns against them, including a 75-yard catch and run. So he's got to be owned. Robert Foster has actually got over 90 yards in 3 or 4 games since being activated above the practice squad. So some there's some guys out there that if you're having trouble with a wide receiver 3 spot, that you can certainly look at. Tim Patrick from the Denver Broncos certainly looked impressive this past week. It looks like he was Case Keenum's preferred option on 2 passing downs.
Yeah, he did. And Denver, of course, has the game on Saturday night. So if you need somebody desperately for whatever reason, hey, you got a Saturday night game to watch. All right. Now, as far as here's a quarterback dilemma that I've had for the past month or so, and I've got hopefully 2 games to go in the playoffs. I only have 2 weeks in my playoffs, so I have to decide who to start and whether I got to whether I'm and I'm trying to what I'm trying to do is so because I don't want to go back and forth. You know, it's so hard when you have 2 similar statistical quarterbacks to try and pick one for each week, because it just never seems to work. So I'm saying to myself, all right, let me look at the next 2 weeks, see if I win these next 2 weeks, or I at least can get to the championship game next week, and then just see if I could stick with one of these quarterbacks. So I'll tell you the 2 quarterbacks are, and who I'm going to go with. So it's Phillip Rivers and Deshaun Watson, and I'm going to go ahead. As of today, I've decided I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson. I know Rivers had a big game against the Chiefs earlier this year, but that has been contradictory to his history with the Chiefs. Not only have they not beaten the Chiefs 9 straight times, but he hasn't played well in most of those games. Then it's going to be a night game. It's going to be cold. There might be some rain. Plus, I have Melvin Gordon. So sticking everybody, I know the Chiefs' defense stinks, but sticking everybody into that game, or 2 main pieces into that game, I'm not sure I want to go that route. Plus, Deshaun Watson has the Jets this week. I am concerned a little bit about Deshaun Watson on the road as opposed to being at home where he plays better, but I'm leaning towards Deshaun Watson.
Well, I think you're overthinking a little bit with Rivers, actually. Gordon might not even play. Neither might Eckler, so they might need to throw a lot. I don't know how effective Justin Jackson will be with a heavy workload. Remains to be seen. It's a good. If weather is a concern, I think if it's windy, then that's something that could sway you in that direction. If you got 15-mile-an-hour winds, etc. What he's done in the past, I think Phillip Rivers is having his best season ever. It really doesn't compare. You know, there's a different Chiefs team, maybe a little bit of a different Phillip Rivers, at least in the regular season. He's never won anything when it counts in the playoffs, and I'll keep saying that until he does something. Deshaun Watson didn't look too good last week. The Colts defense kind of underrated. They put a lot of pressure on him, and they did a good job of doubling DeAndre Hopkins. The Jets actually have a worse defense. You never know what you're going to get with Deshaun Jackson in any given week, but I just feel Phillip Rivers has a better floor, and he's in a good matchup.
All right. Also, take a look at this Pittsburgh running back situation. So we talked about Jalen Samuels and how hot pickup he was last week, and Connor didn't even play last week, so I'm assuming he ain't playing on Thursday. And this week on Sunday against the Patriots. So if that's the case, what did you see on Sunday, good or bad, as far as the Pittsburgh running back situation?
Well, Stephen Ridley got the 1 goal line carry, which is not good. And
no.
Then you hardly got any rushing yards from Jalen Samuels, but he certainly helped you in the passing game. And as a PPR back, there's a double figure floor there in a PPR league. So I think he'll be okay. They're saying Connor has an outside shot to play, which isn't too encouraging.
What do you make of the type of season that like a George Kittle's having? I mean,
well, he's now an elite fantasy tight end.
Yeah,
and that's going to be very important because this tight end, the tight end position is just so devoid of talent right now that he'll probably be the 3rd tight end off the board in a lot of drafts next year.
Would you consider again? It all depends, but is he that good that if you are in a league that doesn't have a tight end, you can use him if you want? Is he in the mix on your starting lineups?
He certainly is. Any guy that posts 200-yard games is, he's certainly producing at a level or better than a lot of other wide receivers. And certainly if, with a lot of people not being able to consistently stream the same 3rd wide receiver, he's definitely in that conversation.
If you don't have an elite quarterback going in the playoffs, and maybe you have a decent one, maybe you have a bad matchup this week, and you picked him up last week as your backup, do you consider starting Josh Allen?
I think you have to with the rushing upside for sure. But it all depends on what your other options are. He's got you near of above 20 points the last 3 weeks, and he's a dynamic kid. But then again, it's he does turn the ball over, etc. So that's something with him. But I think you like the matchup against Detroit, so you got to give him some starting consideration.
What do you do with if you have a decent kicker? Let's say you're getting around 8 to 10 points. Well, again, points wise, but let's just say you're getting. Let's say you're getting 3 touchdowns and 1 field goal every week from your kicker. And so it's okay, he's kicking like a 40-yarder every week, but that's all you're getting. But it's okay, it's good. It's not great, but it's manageable.
That's pretty good to get about 10 points every week. That's what you get from a top kicker.
Yeah, again, if you can get 10, like I said, if you're kicking, and let me just use Harrison Butker as an example, a guy that's mostly kicking extra points. And he'll kick maybe 1 field goal every game, and that's it. So, but again, it's consistent. It's okay.
He's still top 5.
He's top 5 in your league in overall, really?
At the position, he's still top 5 at the position.
Okay. Yeah, I guess
they're not scoring touchdowns on every single drive.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, my scoring again. Our league is a 25-year homegrown league, so I guess we have our points a little bit different on how long your field goals are and all this other stuff. So I guess it's a little bit different in ours. I guess my point is let's take Butker out of the equation. Then let's say you have the 8th best kicker in the league, and you're getting
that'd be Steven Gostkowski.
Okay. And so you're doing okay, but now you're in the playoffs. Now you've got 2 games to go. You're starting the playoffs. Let's just say you're starting them, and you're going. You know what? I maybe this is okay, but should I go for more? Meaning, do I take a chance by picking up Myers?
If I have a Harrison Butker, I'm not going for a Myers. If I have a Gostkowski, Myers he's been up there, but he's been very, very inconsistent. Then again, you look at Gostkowski the last few weeks, 9, 5, 8. He's only had 2 big games. With Myers, I think a lot of people overlook him because they don't really expect much out of the Jets offense. Actually, Jason Myers, he's the top kicker in fantasy football right now.
Yeah.
If I have Gostkowski, I'm okay with cutting him to get Myers, but most people are not going to do that because they don't pay attention to kicker trends and they know Gostkowski's name more.
Sure.
And, they won't go for Myers. People don't pay attention to kicker trends.
Sure.
And the fact that you do, gives you a good chance. Jason Myers is only owned in 21.8% of leagues, and he's the number one
kicker
in football.
Yeah, and exactly.
People just go with the names that they know.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And what about... Go ahead.
If I go way down the list, and I look at some like Jake Elliott's owned in 35% of leagues, and he's way down there this year. Like Adam Vinatieri is owned in like 66% of leagues, and he's nowhere close to Myers.
Yeah, the other thing that I'm concerned with Butker is, and the main reason I'm concerned with Butker is just because he's starting to miss field goals. And he's missed some extra points lately.
So he gets so many chances, though.
I know. It's just disappointing when you're in the playoffs and like the week before the playoffs start, you miss 2 field goals. Yeah,
but you know what though? Every single week, if I reach his game log, it's pretty consistent. I mean, going back to week 5, 12, 10, 8, 6, 7, 10, 9, 12, 7. You're not getting less than 7 points from the guy. So
sure.
He's pretty reliable.
And then this week again, night, maybe the rain comes into effect. These things start playing in your head when you're thinking about. See, because I'm in a situation where I've lost.
Well, he's a kicker that plays in outdoors and home, and he plays with a very powerful offense. So that might be overthinking it a bit.
Yeah, I've had to overthink because
that's the danger at this time of the year in fantasy football, that people start to overthink things and then they shoot themselves in the foot because they overthink a decision. Pretty much just go with the guys that got you there. Harrison Butker's been top 5 all year.
Yeah, I for me personally, it's just been because of the fact that when you lose Cooper Kupp, and then you lose A.J. Green, and then now you've been losing Melvin Gordon. I've lost all these guys. And I was first in the league. I'm still first in my standings, not first in points. I can't be first in points. I've lost too many guys. So I'm going into the number 1 seed, but I'm not anywhere near the team I was 6 weeks ago. So right. I'm trying to figure out where can I gain a couple of extra points, not knowing that I'm trying not to only think this week. I'm trying to think over a 2-week period because, again, I'm not going to guess week to week. It's just you do that, and like you said, you get in trouble. So even for that, I know I don't want to overthink week to week. I just want to go, okay, what's my 2-week team going to look like? Do I make a move at kicker to try to gain a few extra points over the next couple of weeks to compensate for the loss and all those points from injuries? So anyway. Any other main players that you wanted to talk about this week, especially on the waiver wire?
I think if you had Todd Gurley, you just want to have that NFL handcuff to him. Right now it looks like Justin Jackson. And Ian Thomas, 9 catches for 77 yards. And when you look at the state of tight end, this might be the most coveted guy on the waiver wire this week. Okay,
interesting. Scott, appreciate it. What else? Any other deals going on right now at RotoExperts.com?
Yeah, check out our playoff package / to a low $9.95 for your last few weeks.
All right, Scott. Good luck with your Seahawks in San Francisco this week. It looks like they're headed to the playoffs, so that should be gratifying when you get there. Who do you think? Oh, let's see. Who would they play if they probably get in?
The season ended today. They will play Dallas.
Oh, that's a winnable game.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, I don't think it'll be easy. Nothing is in the playoffs.
Nothing's easy, but going up against Dak Prescott in the playoffs, that's not a bad idea with Russell Wilson.
No.
Thanks, Scott. Talk to you next week.
You.
All right. Bye. Long way to go before the playoffs begin, but hey. I think I jammed that up a little too loud. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up here on the OFN Today for this Tuesday, the beginning of the week here for our coverage. Coming up tomorrow, again, Mark Lawrence is going to join me. We're going to preview the bowl season, so we're not going to just zero in at all on these games on Saturday because I've already covered them with Dave. But we'll go over the entire bowl season. I'll ask Mark for some of his top picks and anything else that he wants to talk about, and I'll throw some games at him as well from any research that I'm going to be able to get up to speed with before tomorrow. I know he's going to have his bowl package out tomorrow, so trying to make sure that we can get that bowl package in before the show so we can talk a little bit about what he's got available. It's going to be a great opportunity for anybody that looks at pre-bowl season information, which is not so easy to get because a lot of guys like Dave and Teddy and so forth, I mean, they're going to go week to week, game to game. But Mark's got everything for you ready to go from the first bowl game to the last. So that'll be a little bit about what we'll talk about on the OFN Today tomorrow. Teddy will be with me on Thursday. We'll also have our ACC Football Report Bowl Season Preview with Jerry Radcliffe on the ACC Report on Thursday. And, of course, Mitch Light from Athlon Sports as we talk what else? Bowl season on OFN College Football Weekly. So that's going to wrap it up here on the OFN Today. For Scott Engel, for Dave Cokin, I'm Greg DePalma. Alpha Mike Foxtrot.